Hey guys, welcome back. In today's video, we are talking about the $800 per share, why AMC is the problem for brokers, how Citadel might be exposed for market manipulation, and many more in this video. First, we're taking a look at this. Now, this is something that I always find very interesting because of how much it relates to AMC. As you can see here, fun fact, the difference between the max and minimum Bitcoin market cap since 1 month ago corresponds to $800 per AMC share. So the reason why I'm saying this and why I'm bringing this out is because we've known for a long time now that these institutions use different assets as collaterals. We've seen them use crypto, we've seen them use the Mag 7 stocks, and we've seen them use other assets along with it. And so what we know is that a lot of these collateral tied up with these assets are also tied up with the value of AMC, because if they are not able to continuously suppress AMC, when they see all of these assets start falling down, that value will get transferred to somewhere else, and in this case, of course, AMC. And so this is one of the biggest reasons for why we know there are so much money in this play, why there have been so much money spent and dumped into this everything by the short sellers, and is why we've always said that they've sunk in hundreds of billions of dollars, is because of the collaterals in which they use to obviously try and suppress AMC. And so if you want to understand whether or not AMC can reach $800 or reach $1,000, then you take a look at the market cap for some of these assets that are used to suppress AMC, and you'll be able to understand exactly what is going on. And now, to further prove this and to further understand the problem that AMC holds, you can see this. Firstly, this is a very detailed explanation, and I want you guys to read it for yourself as well. Feel free to pause the video now, or of course, I will link it in the description. But this is essentially talking about the whole incident with AMC GME and how the brokers turned off the buy button. And you can see this is a report that we found out a year later after the 15 plus hours of congressional hearings. This is what Trade 385 refers to in regards to GameStop in January 28th, 2021. Hundreds of retail brokers put GME and AMC in liquidation only status because a single clearing firm that controls them, Apex, did not acknowledge both the buy and the sell of a market maker's $385 million split second buy and sell of AMC. And so this was the problem that was caused. Now we know that there was, of course, plenty more that was in this. Essentially, we knew that AMC and GME pose extreme threats towards multiple institutions, towards the clearing firms, towards the financial hedge funds, towards the brokers, and that's what was at risk. And you can even see here, and I think this explains it up, but also puts a lot more perspective into everything. You can see, to force bundle GME and kohrs with AMC, declaring all three symbols on 90% of your Jan 28, 2021 margin problem, when in reality, you know that 65% of your problem is AMC, can arguably be viewed as deceptive data framing. It shows you didn't really have a risk management argument to hide GameStop's buy button, but you did anyway. So this is a picture that I've shown plenty of times in the chart for our videos, and essentially what you will see is how much threat AMC posed for the collaterals, and we see this for Robinhood, and you can even see here 65% was consistent of AMC shares. And now of that, there were percentages aside from that were obviously GME, that was kohrs. You can see the other essentially 25% was GME and AMC. And so this is why we've said, and for a long time, is that because AMC is a cheaper stock, it is easier to create synthetics of AMC. And when you create more synthetics, you're gonna get more collaterals tied up. And this is the indication, this is the exact proof of that. But it's also saying how, firstly, AMC poses a massive threat for the short sellers, and is single-handedly what could have been the reason for why the buy button should have removed. But then, because of that, there should have been no reason for them to hide GameStop's buy button. But the very fact that they did shows that there is something more going than what we are seeing. It could potentially mean that, firstly, GME also poses a massive threat. Now, we know that for a long time as well, but we didn't know the exact threat it posed, and we still don't to this day, because we don't understand truly how many synthetics has made. But if they had, if we see this chart and we know that AMC made up of the majority of the reason for why brokers were panicking, then it should have been only AMC to have seen their buy button removed. And so this obviously just showcases how big of a problem AMC and GME are, and it's why we've always said that the short sellers have been trying their hardest to get people to sell their AMC shares, to sell their GME shares. And remember, if this was the problem that AMC was able to cause back in 2021, and that was because AMC was a cheaper stock in comparison to GME to create synthetics, then you should think about how much bigger the problem is only getting now. And this applies for GME as well, this applies for other stocks as well. But now that AMC is obviously at $2.74, it is so much easier to create synthetics of AMC. And especially when you compare it to GME, you are able to almost create 10 times the synthetics of AMC than you are with one share of GME. And so from a cost basis, it's obviously more worth it for these short institutions to create synthetics of AMC. Now, the only problem is that this doesn't mean that just because they can create so many synthetics that they can get out of this situation. Like we've said, they are trapped in this play. The synthetics, it's something that they create, will never get out of the system. They will always remain in the system till one day where they will be exposed. And we could be seeing that happening very soon. We are seeing so many different things recently in regards to how retail, about how different firms, individual firms, are trying to grasp the fairness of the market. Because you can see here, just in Ken Griffin Citadel may be getting exposed for market manipulation. This comes after the concert company NWBO accused Citadel of market manipulation by spoofing, impacting their stock prices from 2017 to 2022. The case is about to go into discovery. Now, what this is we've talked about this firm who was manipulated, who was attacked by Citadel, and they saw billions of dollars of their value evaporated because of the attacks by Citadel. And now finally, we're seeing this going into discovery. Now, this isn't the only lawsuit recently in regards to naked shorting, in regards to the exploit of individual firms by these hedge funds. We've obviously seen it with Genius Group as well. And so this is why I'm saying in terms of we are seeing the attack of the retail, the attack of these individual firms who want to make sure that there is a fair market, that their prices aren't going down just because a firm is shorting them and they want to make money. And so this could be the start of something. If we are able to see the core, if we are able to see the regulation to actually support the retail, to support these individual firms, to actually bring fairness to the market and stop these massive hedge funds from exploiting the firm, then you can see how well that will do for AMC and GME as well, especially understanding how much collateral was obviously at stake back in 2021, and fast forward now, how much more collateral will be at stake. You can see multiple indications of why we say when this situation is getting bad is because we're seeing things like this about how you can see Revolut sold my GME warrants without my agreement. I'm not surprised. This was paper warrants to avoid prosecution, nothing real. And so this was one of many posts out there in terms of different brokers who have force liquidated the warrant, who has force sold the warrant of certain users, and this is done by not one but multiple different institutions. We're still seeing how there are some firms out there who are delaying the warrant issuance as well. Now, bear in mind, the warrant was something that was declared a month before this was happening. Firms had plenty of time to obviously prepare for this. So the very fact that now that the warrant has been issued and we're still seeing problems with delivery, we're still seeing problems with forced liquidation, that should just explain to you why this situation is a big situation, why this situation is showing that the shorts are not doing as well as they are making themselves out to be. And then you can even see how they're trying to keep the price at a low level to make sure that certain people like Roaring Kitty aren't able to flush them out. Massive order for 821,000 GME shares just hit the dark pools for 19 million. Someone must really like GameStop price around Roaring Kitty's last known cost basis. So obviously, if you want to talk about someone who has influence in the market, especially for GME, Roaring Kitty is definitely that guy. And so what we're seeing is that we know that Roaring Kitty's cost basis is obviously around this ballpark, and the very fact we are seeing GME shares not go above this, not to a point where Roaring Kitty can have a massive impact, because we've seen what he's done with the core options in the past, we've seen his influence, we've seen how willing he is to hold on to these shares. And so that's why the short sellers are trying to make sure that they are doing their best to suppress the price, to not let GME go up, because they are afraid that people like us, the retail, the apes, have the ability to flush these guys out. As always, this is financial advice, so do take what I say with salt. Make sure to do your own due diligence and research, and I'll catch you guys next time.